Ladies and gentlemen, can I please ask you to take your seats? We will try to be on schedule today. I know there are a lot of interesting panels that you mingle around from one hall to the other, but due to the respect to our guests and panelists, thank you so much. Can you give us the clock, please? The counter. Thank you. Can Europe act or continue to sleepwalk, or is it already acting or still sleepwalking? Or are we okay after this year's EU elections and what Ms. Ursula von der Leyen said, defending her second mandate in the European Parliament, that the center holds still in Europe? I'm very happy that today we will have a fruitful discussion with people who are really skilled diplomats, people who are executive ministers from the non-EU country, which is, I think, very important perspective for the future of Europe. And that we will talk also with Guillaume Klossa, executive president of EuropaNova think tank, which is trying to give us, scenarios for our future. I'm very happy to welcome this morning Mr. Elmedin Konaković, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Welcome. Please give him a round of applause. Next to me is Rastislav, right? The State Secretary of Foreign and European Affairs Ministry of Slovakia. Welcome. Our host, as I said, almost Igor, the veteran diplomat, even though we are the same age, State Secretary for European Affairs from the Office of the Prime Minister of Slovenia. Welcome. And as I already introduced, Guillaume Klossa, Executive President of EuropaNova. And Guillaume, I want to start with you maybe to map this discussion this morning, because the panel before us talked about Pax Americana, but the first 45 minutes I was here, they talked just about Europe and how Europe will be in relations to what happens in the States in November. So we'll try to talk from our side. So we have the results of elections as we do. Von der Leyen said the center holds, I'm not that sure, seeing what is happening and within the Constitution of European Parliament and within European countries. The latest example is AfD win into German states the other day. And also, we are waiting still for von der Leyen to give us the new portfolios of this new Commission. She said yesterday that she wants to have empowered a commissioner for enlargement. But what do you see in this context, which are like these 5 to 6 to 10 things, just to map them, which are crucial for Europe to be an actor or a sleepwalker? Just press the mic. Thanks.
Share the result.
No, it's good. It's good. It was on, but you just need to speak louder.
Okay,
Ciao.
That's okay? Okay. Yeah. So allow me maybe to share the result of a work which has been done with 50 opinion leaders from the member state, from politics. We had Antonio Costa, we have several prime ministers, from science, from tech, from entrepreneurship, from civil society. Because this result, which was the result of a conclave supported by BSF and Slovenia, but also by M+, Croatia, etc., is very interesting. First of all, the understanding is we are in a period of acceleration. Mm-hmm. Acceleration of crisis, acceleration of transformation, of course, climate change. And we see that the climate change crises are more and more regular, but also scientific and technological acceleration. And in this period, there is a competition between US and China, where the two superpowers want also to speed up. And 1 year ago, President Biden said the main thing of the next 5 years for the US will be acceleration. And the Chinese president said exactly the same thing. So for me, the main challenge for Europe is how to accelerate with its own ambition. And the question, as you said, is what kind of player do we want to be? Do we want to be a player taken between China and the US? Of course, we have special relationship with the US, and we need to preserve this relationship. But we need to be aware that for the US, either we are a vassal, either we are a strategic partner. And being a strategic partner means we are a power. We are a global, sustainable, responsible power. And for me, the first challenge for Europe is that. Can we become a global, sustainable, responsible power? And from that, you have more detailed challenges. One is about geopolitics and the assertion of Europe as a real geopolitical power. It means, are we able to win this war? Because we have the resource and we have the capacity to unite. But we are not playing completely the game. Edi Rama was very clear on that yesterday. So we need to give ourselves the condition to win the war with regard to Russia, and rapidly, because otherwise the cost is increasing. And this means also we need to prepare our defense to be credible with regard to Russia, but also with regard to China. The second challenge for me is science and technology. In America and in China, science and technology is a key driver for next growth. And we are losing ground in Europe. If we are not putting ourselves in a condition to regaining scientific and technological leadership, we will be out of the economic game, and we will be in a period of accelerated economic decline by the end of the next 5 years. And there it will be a big problem for our society. For me, the third challenge is common goods, climate, education, health. If we look at each of our member states, we have not the capacity to produce fairly, efficiently the level of common goods citizens are expecting. If we work together, if we use the EU as a leverage, we can produce that. And this is very important because this is the condition for citizens to feel comfortable and to look positively with regard to the future. And the last challenge is democracy. Expectations of citizens are different from the past. They are expecting two opposite things: strong leadership on the one side and inclusive leadership on the other side. And at the same time, they need to articulate national and European democracy in order to understand where they are and how they can be influential. So these are 4 very specific, urgent, and critical challenges on which there are a convergence, a consensus within at least European opinion leader at the level of the 27.
So concerning this acceleration, either this way or that way, or both ways, depending on the area you've mentioned, I want to ask Igor Mali concerning the subject of our panel. We discussed it a little bit earlier. We have this construct, we have this selection of MPs from the, unfortunately, still nation political space, because European countries for the European elections still vote from their national preferences. We still don't have common European political space. We have various other common European spaces, but still not the political one. So how do you see, concerning these very big challenges, that von der Leyen and this new commission and the constitution of the council and the constitution of the parliament will manage to do something? Because the first mandate was the crisis mandate. We had COVID, and it was disastrous time for all of us as citizens, but that in a way helped her to kind of homogenize Europe and try to act in the way she acted. But how do you see this for the period to come concerning huge, big, global, common good challenges, what Guillaume said, and our own, personal pettiness in Europe still?
Thank you for the question. Well, the question, the answer is for 2 panels. But basically, I fully agree what Guillaume said about the future challenges. I would basically put them into 2 brackets. One is security, and the other is prosperity. And within this, competitiveness and cohesion and so on. I think that the mandate of the next Commission, the next von der Leyen mandate, is going to be even more challenging than the first one. On one hand, because of all the challenges we have ahead, and on the other, because of the outcome of the European elections and the political scenery we have in Europe. So I think it's going to be quite hard for the biggest ideas, the biggest challenges to put through either through European Council or European Parliament. The Grand Coalition in European Parliament has 400 seats out of 750, so it's slightly above 1/2. And there are a lot of dossiers which are very important for the next mandate, like green transition, like reform and enlargement, like migration as well, which could be challenging, especially in the European Parliament. So the Commission and of course the Council will have to, especially the Commission, will have to balance in the European Parliament on those most topical issues. And besides this coalition I mentioned, you have basically, I would say, 2 parties in the European Parliament that the Commission or the President von der Leyen could count on specific dossiers. One are the Greens, and the other, as I see it, perhaps the ECR.
Migration.
Exactly. And those, in some dossiers, are not seeing the same way, those two potential partners. So it's going to be very challenging for the next Commission to work on those dossiers. We have also the relatively new situation also in the European Council, with some member states that had elections in a couple of months ago, and the political scenery totally changed. All of a sudden, we have less liberals in the European Council and more, let's put it this way, ECR and right center or right leaders. And on this front is going to be challenging, especially on the dossier. I find it of extreme importance for the next at least 2 years, and this is the next budget, the multi-annual financial framework, because the European budget reflects the priorities. If you put the priorities on the paper, you cannot implement them if you don't have the budget behind. And then the battle for the next budget, European budget, is going to be very, very challenging and very important. And at the end of the day, this battle goes to the European Council. So it's going to be a real challenge.
Yeah, and then we come to leadership, and then I'll talk to Minister Konaković, because we heard from Ursula von der Leyen yesterday in her speech here in Bled that she wants to have substantial commissioner for enlargement, because the whole politics of enlargement with the war in Ukraine and the new geopolitical situation basically changed in a lot of ways. Concerning the previous commissioner, and there also was a commissioner for enlargement in the previous commission. It's not something new now. What do you think will be important from the stance of that policy concerning this pivotal moment we are in? But also I would like to hear from you, because you waited for so long to cross the Rubicon in Bosnia and Herzegovina in terms of relation and negotiations with the EU. What would be your 5 cents to von der Leyen if you were sitting in the ministerial council talking to her? You know, what should she do?
Yeah. Thank you so much. European enlargement policy has changed completely after Russian aggression in Ukraine. So Europeans, I'm talking about Bosnia and Herzegovina, they woke up and they realized beside this administrative issues, we have some really important security issues now at the moment. Let me start with the story I heard from previous president of Slovenia, Mr. Borut Pahor. We were panelists in Mostar in July, maybe 1 month and a half ago. And he told us a story when he met Vladimir Putin 10, 15 years ago. And he asked him about Western Balkans. He asked him, okay, what is actually Russian interest in Western Balkans territory? So he said, you are losing that game. You have already Albania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, they are NATO members. So you have all countries applying for full membership in EU. So what are you doing in Western Balkans? And Putin said, yes, that's true. They are NATO members and they are applying for EU, and we made a mistake. And he said, we will never do the same mistake. So he sent a message that he's going to fight for the influence or for the control of this part of the world. And that is the first thing that Europeans have to be aware today. Because of this security issue that we all have together, this is really challenging. That because of malign Russia influence, you can see, I will explain how in my country and some other countries, this is the main message. We have a common enemy, and he is actually really active. My colleague, also previous Minister of Foreign Affairs, explained once, Mr. Bujar Osmani, he explained how Russia actually is collecting frustrations on Western Balkan space because, I don't know, Thessaloniki summit happened 20 plus years ago, and since then only Croatia actually became a full member of EU, and nothing is happening for 2 decades. In my country, like I said before, EU was sleeping for 10 years doing nothing, and of course we are aware of our mistakes. Of course, our politics is really, okay, I will not talk about our politics. We have campaign. We have campaign now, I don't want to use this space. So that is to explain how important geopolitically and security issue is now in this space for European Union. And it was really brave and brave decision in March this year to officially open negotiations with Bosnia and Herzegovina. That was the right message to Moscow. And I think they were surprised, they were shocked. Because to be honest, we still need to deliver a lot of things. We had a good start. We delivered 7 European laws. We have 16 laws adopted. And you have to know complexity of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Dayton's agreement brought a peace, but also brought complex constitution where you need consensus about every single important issue in Bosnia and Herzegovina. You cannot adopt simple law without actually consensus from 3 sides. You need to have them all voting, supporting on Council of Ministers, House of Representatives, House of People. So that shows how complex Bosnian constitution is. And at the end, President of Republika Srpska, Milorad Dodik, he visited Russia this year 2 times, in January and June. 6th of June this year, he sent the message to Europeans, to EU, to Americans, to United Kingdom that they are on the wrong side of the civilization. And he criticized, together with Putin, all of them. And now, can you imagine him voting for this EU agenda inside of our parliaments with the veto right in his hands, and EU expecting us to deliver? Of course, we need to deliver. I know it is merit-based, but it's not merit-based only. This is now, we need leaders, we need leadership, we need brave leaders to see what is really happening in this small part of the world, but on the other side, so interesting to these, let's say, big players. I don't know why, but obviously we are. So I have some numbers I will probably use these numbers later to explain how important EU is for my country. Let me start just with the export. Bosnia and Herzegovina export goes 92% to European Union, 70% directly to member states, and 22% to the region. And all regional countries are candidate countries. We export to Russia and China yearly less than 1% of our products. So can you imagine economical influence, but also on the other side, political, geopolitical, strategical influence from Russia? And for the future of my country, EU integration is must. This is top priority number one. But also on the other side, we need EU to understand this is not merit-based story only. Of course, we don't ask for shortcuts, but we ask for understanding what is really happening right now in my country.
Talking about, you've mentioned economy, and Guillaume mentioned how this acceleration can go in negative side because of our position in current global economical situation. I also remember this forgotten Zagreb declaration from this summit in 2020 during COVID time, where it was emphasized on paper that all the Western Balkans countries, the biggest investor in them is EU overall. So that is something everyone, when is trying to sow this information, need to remember. State Secretary Chovanec, I want to ask you, because your background is competitiveness, is economy, to start from that, and then we go to these big issues, and climate and migration and democracy, which is, I think, of fundamental geopolitical value, and of course defense as a new portfolio that is coming to us in the next commission. What are the main risks? We heard this morning on the panel on the United States how IRA was shocking for Europe. But where we are now with economy, with our plan of Green Deal from one side, and making partnership around Europe and within Europe that are democratically maybe problematic. We'll jump into that also later.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. My point is that, unfortunately, European Union is losing its competitiveness comparing to the main partners like US and China. And it was also said today at the beginning that US and China are talking about acceleration. And my question will be, where is EU? We used to be there competing with these two superpowers, and somehow our competitive advantage is being smaller. That's one of the issues. I have an economic background. As you said, I used to be a state secretary at the Ministry of Economy. So I look at the decisions and at the strategies through money or through the impact on businesses. It might not be always the best case, but that's what I do, and maybe it would be good to balance some of the priorities of EU, comparing about and taking into consideration the impact it has on the businesses and on the companies, because we lost our competitive advantage in different sectors, and I do not see any specific sector where we would still be world leaders. We are slowly losing our competitiveness in automotive industry, which was always a priority for us. We are not the front leaders in the new technologies like AI, because there is a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of administrative measures that the companies have to fulfill, and that's why they are leaving. So, and the crisis showed us really well how vulnerable we are. We act as a European Union, as a one group of countries, but if there is a crisis like we had during the COVID, then all of a sudden Schengen rules don't apply because a respective country decides it doesn't. And what I think what we should focus on is to come back to the basics, because the European Union started as an economic project, and realize what we should do to be more competitive, and from that point on to try to focus on getting back to the leadership that we as a European Union had before.
Am I right if I will say, Guillaume, that two things holding us back in these times, ask me if I don't explain it right, are values and regulation. And war, of course, which we will talk about a lot in next minutes. But how can we jump out of this because we have acceleration, because we really don't have time. If you see what's going on in terms of deterioration of economy, we heard Minister Konaković today and Prime Minister Rama yesterday, and we saw what, from one side, Elon Musk is doing every day, and TikTok is doing to our kids. How can we preserve whatever this European democracy and values is in this kind of acceleration, which is mind-boggling to the everyday effects we have on our lives and economy, because it is, I think, connected.
Several things. First of all, the resilience of the EU and its member states is quite remarkable. I mean, we have a series of crises. We have 20 crises the last 20 years, and more or less, we did well. But we were reactive each time, and that's an issue. I can give you an example. 14 years ago, I was Sherpa of the reflection group on the future of Europe. We had identified the risk of a pandemic. But as it was not a European competence, we put it out of the report. We had identified a risk of a war with Russia 15 years ago. But as it was not a European competence, we put it out. We had identified the risk of industrial decline with the beginning of tech transnational giant. But as it was not a European competence, we put it out. And each time we see a problem which is not a European competence, we put it out, we position ourselves into a reactive mode. And we say, but you see, Europe is not working. But I mean, we have all the elements to be proactive. But at a certain moment, we need to understand that we need to identify the problem, and whatever the competence of the EU, we need to find a European solution. Otherwise, we are dead. Up to June, we were the first global economy. Now China is in front of us in terms of size. We have a market. We are supposed to have a single market. But this single market does not exist in health. Health is our main competitive advantage. Is our main competitive advantage where artificial intelligence is key. But member states don't want a single market for health. Okay. We don't have a single market for digital service. That should be our first, but member state don't want. So you see there is a series of contradictions we need to solve very quickly. And on the other side, the last 10 years, both China and the US have developed long-term strategy to retake scientific and industrial leadership. And in the US, it started 12 years ago with Obama, who developed an advanced manufacturing strategy. I mean, the Ministry of Defense and the Department of Defense, they are investing hundreds of billions of dollars in order to support their industry with nothing to declare to WTO. So how do you want to be competitive when your main economic partner is developing non-competitive strategy for the long term? And China, they are doing exactly the same thing. So at a certain moment, we should wonder ourselves on what do we want? Do we want to exist in this world? Do we want to be an industrial and an economic power in the interest of our company and our citizens? Or do we want to be taken between China and the US and to compete only on the cost dimension? But if we compete only on the cost dimension, we are killed. We need to be able to innovate. And for that, we need to invest much more in research and development. And for that, we need an investment in defense. Because the competitive edge of the US and China, even regarding the investment in Google, etc., but they use the defense money for that to support a certain number of initiatives. We don't do it. We don't do it. We are too much fragmented. So, I mean, we have now a clear understanding of the situation. The question now is, do we want to act or not? And if we want to act, we need to be bold. We are not create competitiveness again only by working on social fair. We need to work on science and technology, because science and technology drive competition nowadays. But no, we need to be clear on that. Science and technology. And we are about to be nowhere. Regarding GAFA and the equivalent Chinese, Russia, India, Emirates, the US, of course, China, they have a strategy of digital public and private infrastructure, continent-wide. We don't have. And we know that this infrastructure are the condition for competitiveness for the next 5 years, the next decade. We could have, in sectors, I mean, health, for example, defense, telecoms, information. And this can be organized. But where is the political willingness? And where is the political understanding? The issue we have is, in China, we have engineers. In the US, you have engineers who are influencing the government and the parties. In Europe, where are the engineers who are influencing the political leader? No, but that's the question. That's the question. And if we do not answer this question, and if we do not integrate in our European DNA this engineering skills, we are dead. You know that the development of Europe was linked to our capacity to innovate in science and technology, and our leadership was there, and our competitiveness. And now, it's not a political issue. It should be the top political issue. In China, it is a top political issue. In the US, it is a top political issue. When do we discuss that in Europe? We speak about artificial intelligence, but without tech giant, we can't leverage the capacity of artificial intelligence, because we need a lot of data, and we need not only national data, we need transnational data in order to nurture the algorithm and to provide added value.
Yeah, but it was a long discussion in Europe and very hard to formulate, and concerning the fact that we are faced with brutal, raw military force from the east, and very, very serious security issues now, which also include our green transition, in a sense, search for whatever you need for them.
But we have the skills, we have the technical skills. The fact is, there is a race for the skills.
Yeah, but we don't have time to go so deep into that. I want to ask Igor Mali to reflect on that and to add this dimension of security concerning both the dimension of defense and security in terms of our economy in the framework of green transition, digital transformation also, because we need resources for that. And of course, in that regard, how do we preserve what Europe was the bastion of, democracy and values? We heard on the previous panel that Poland will put values up front of their presidency. So what are these values if you go around the world, shake hands with people who are dubious concerning democratic values?
It's a very complex question.
Yeah, okay.
But still, let me reflect.
We leave it to the audience to ask more a little bit later.
Let me reflect to what Guillaume said. I think there is understanding among member states and leaders what is necessary. There is no willingness. Yeah. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's a matter of priorities and it's a matter of money. So that's why I've emphasized the question of EU budget and the next financial perspective negotiations. Because the simple answer to the USA, so their IRA, to the Chinese, is definitely to invest more in industry, in innovation, science, technology. And from this perspective, I very much like the idea put forward of President von der Leyen on the European Competitiveness Fund. I think it's a very good idea. We've tried to tackle IRA with the EU budget reshuffle, so the MFF review, which was done a couple of months ago. The USA put 200 or 300 billion in IRA. We were discussing about 10 million. Come on. Or yeah, a bit more, but still, the proportions are huge. So there are two answers to this, how to push things forward. One is the EU budget, and the other is Capital Markets Union. We still lack capital, the private capital investing in Europe. A lot of European private capital invest in the States. So we have to reverse this flow and make the situation that European capital, private capital, invest in European projects of the future. This is one. Secondly, I'm coming back to the EU budget. I've done the negotiations, I think, 3 times now. Every single time, at the beginning, everybody's very much in favor to invest more in competitiveness, in research, in the forward-looking fields. At the end, everybody's defending their first priority. This is either lesser budget, so the net payers, they want to have lesser budget for all the challenges we have. The second group, cohesion, and the third group, agriculture. Mm-hmm. So there is hardly any defendant of forward-looking policies besides the Commission. And that's the problem. The answer to this problem, as I see it, is that the EU budget should have new own resources. So it would not be, so basically it means European taxes. It won't be so linked to the willingness of different member states. It's a long shot, but still. I'm sure that the debate on the new own resources will surface also on the next negotiations. But still, we'll see how far will we go. There are going to be in the next 5 years, and also in those budget negotiations, additional new challenges we haven't faced before, and this is primarily defense. Here, I think that a vast majority of member states will be very much in favor of putting more money in defense, including some of the net so-called frugals, net payers, especially from the north, which is positive. But I think the defense sector will sooner or later have to be financed also with loans, one way or another. Not directly from the EU budget, but mainly from loans.
But recovery and resilience of the future.
Yeah.
Next to next generation.
Basically,
until we finally figure out, that we need to change some things if we want to survive. If we're not dead when that happens.
I would be very much in favor of a new next generation EU for the next period. To prolong it or to make it a new one, but that's not the reality we are facing. There are some member states which don't like this approach, but I think that at least part of it, of the logic of the next generation EU, will go on, either in some policies, and there is already a discussion on this, or to finance areas like the security. So we'll see how far we'll go on this.
But in this triangle of defense, security, and values, Minister Konaković, you've mentioned it earlier, it's of utmost importance and for the region and for Europe to kind of accelerate the process of enlargement. But I want to ask you also to put in the main disputable questions of European political spectrum, which are migration and climate change. Because in Bosnia and Herzegovina, you also have some residues from the past concerning, we heard President Pirc yesterday talking about how important it is to have clean water, air, all these, common humanity things that Europe needs to preserve. And with all these huge challenges, do you see Macron's agenda on enlargement and the concept of EPC being out there as some kind of, I will call it waiting room, maybe there's a completely wrong name for it. But do you think we need to have really enlargement back in town as such, as European core policy?
Zenica city in Bosnia and Herzegovina was the warmest city in Europe 7 days ago, 42 degrees. Now, climate changes are really, really important because of environment, because of our lives, of course. But on the other side, economy is something that, for us in Bosnia and Herzegovina, is top priority number one. You said the regulation and values, I completely agree. I will tell you something about regulation. Drivers from Western Balkans countries, all 6 countries together, all of us together, we are spending yearly, in period of 12 months, we are spending on the European Schengen border more than 3,000 years, 3 millenniums, waiting for the administration documents, stamps, approvals, phytosanitary inspections, all other controls. Can you imagine how that affects our economy also? Everything is, of course, connected with the enlargement and what actually that means to our countries. On the other side, we understand the complexity of EU also. 27 states, 27 decision makers with the veto rights. I can imagine how EU will look with 6 of us together inside with Bosnia-Serbia relations, Kosovo-Serbia relations, veto rights. So we understand the fears from EU side also, but let's go back to economy. My country, we have 21% of population older than 65 years. We have the lowest fertility rate in Europe, only 1.3. And we have huge brain drain issue. People are leaving. People are actually already here in Slovenia, in Croatia, in Germany, and
you
Austria.
You have these engineers to provide for the future of Europe.
So you have our knowledge here already working on it to be competitive with the China and the United States. And I told you already, 92% of our export goes to EU. It's almost the same with the investments. So we cannot find any other substitution for European market. That's the destiny, our destiny. And if we remove only this barrier, actually, administrative on the borders, and if we can have our phytosanitary inspectors doing their job, we're going to have an impact of 1.5% on our GDPs, all of our countries. So can you imagine how big opportunity for us is this story about the enlargement? But also, let me underline one more time, this is important for Europe, also not only because of security, but because of bigger market and some other opportunities, of course, that we can bring with us together inside as a values inside of European Union. Our pension fund is going to explode in only 8 years. We need more than 3% yearly growth of our GDP to protect our economy. And we can have only one solution. This is integration of our market into big European single market, removal of these administrative barriers, more investors in Bosnia and Herzegovina, bigger salaries. And that's actually what is the plan of politicians in Bosnia and Herzegovina, those who are serious, those who are not populists, actually, because we cannot, and it's not only President of Republika Srpska, the only problem in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have now a new trend, actually, because Russia is collecting frustrations, and now we have politicians on Bosniak side advocating for BRICS membership. There is a guy, young guy, the member of presidency of the strongest party in Bosnia and Herzegovina. He went out a few months ago and he said, okay, why not Russia and China today? We need to try to find some other friends. This is, let me be honest, stupid. But you know what is public opinion and how can public opinion be created? Okay, if we have frustration on one side, European thinking about, I don't know, this is process like 20 plus years old and long, and we are waiting for Europeans to do something for us. We have populists on the scene talking about, I don't know, there are some Muslim countries, friendly countries, you know, they can help us. Economically, that's impossible. And that is dangerous for all of us. To have story about BRICS in the heart of Europe. I have my profile Facebook picture here from Slovenia showing the map of Europe and showing where is the position of my country. This is the heart of Europe. This is not European backyard. So it's important for all of us to understand that we need to work together, and values and regulations are two really, really, really important issues. Security on one side, but on the other side, economy. If they are planning to do some waiting lists, I think EU is going to lose this easy fight because they're fighting with the Russia we are using Russian gas because that's the only source we can use, and we don't have any other economical activities with Russia, nothing, zero. But they're actually waiting, they are collecting frustration, they have individuals, politicians, they have influence on them directly, and they are creating public opinion. Listen guys, Europeans, they don't want you, so think about some other solutions. And if politicians actually if they start to formally to propose and to seek other solutions, we are in trouble, all of us together.
And I have to come to the, again, question of democracy and values in this world, because I think, you know, if that is not the part of the conversation in Europe, then there's no Europe anymore. You were detected as a country with biggest malign disinformation influence, Slovakia. You had, you know, this path from the murder of the journalist Jan Kuciak to the assassination attempt to the Prime Minister Fico. So all the political spectrum was covered by political violence, unfortunately. How big of a risk that is for Europe concerning the policies that are out there and disinformation campaigns that are actively working on dismantling European democracy? On the case of your country, of course.
Yeah. I don't want to connect these two tragic events because I don't think they show any trend. There were two very unfortunate events done by, let's say, individuals. I don't think that it's a matter of pattern or something that we should fear about in the future. We are not that type of country. Of course, the misinformation and this fake news and all these new, I would call them lies that are coming with the spread of social media. That's my take, that since we have all the social media basically running the news all around the countries and that the politicians are using it, we get a lot of more misinformation and a lot of more basically lies to the public, and then it creates two very divided groups of people. Right now, I personally feel that we are losing this political left or right or the dividing system for political parties. It's I'm pro something and against anything. And now the differences are basically clearing out. And that creates a lot of anger, which can result in some of very unfortunate events. I don't have the solution for that, but we maybe need to go one step back and try to come up with the way how let this misinformation influence our lives less. We need maybe to, you know, the freedom of speech might need some borders, might need some limits, just to let the population just to calm down, because I really believe, and it's all around the Western world.
It's just an issue how they define freedom of speech is fine, but hate speech and spreading, you know, violence, and that's something different.
Exactly, but right now I don't see the
definition.
Yeah, but I don't see the border between those two, because a lot of hate speech is being covered by the freedom of speech because the social media are enabling it. So maybe we need to realize what is good for what information have to be said, because people have right to hear both sides or all different opinions, but we should not be discussing about something which are absolutely lies, like the flat earth and something like that. And I believe that would really calm down the situation in public space, and then we can concentrate on the real problems. Because right now, a lot of politicians are fighting artificial problems. They are just coming up with the topics where they can hate each other or show that they are against something, but we are not tackling the real issues that our economy needs. And it's on the top level all the way up to the local politicians.
Before I do 2 wrap-up rounds, I will just ask one of the young BSFs to prepare. I'll give you the question first, and then we'll continue with Q&As. I don't know who's responsible for the mic. Just solve it with them. Just keep the mic first, so no one takes it from you. So when we wrap up, I need to have 2 fast rounds because there is so many things, and of course we cannot solve the issues. We can just detect them and point out to things that are really important. I'm glad that we did competitiveness and economy also because it lacks, and everyone else talked about defense and war in Ukraine, so maybe we skipped it a little bit on this panel. I had a list of questions that we formulated with BSF that I will read, and it says like this. Can the EU reassume its role as a united geopolitical power on the world stage, or will it become a fragmented entity struggling to define its role and identity? How might the division of power in the new European Parliament and new leadership, what we talked about, influence direction of the European Union? In what ways could they influence the EU's relationship with key global partners? What potential shifts may occur in diplomatic and trade engagements? And how can Europe regain and truly harness its soft power based on democracy and shared values? We heard from Natalie Tocci in the previous panel that Pax Americana is over. So is the idea of Europe formulated in this united geopolitical power, soft power based on democracy and shared values, also something that is over or disappearing, or it can be what the French band Daft Punk says, like a legend of the phoenix, it will rise up again somewhere over the rainbow, which is also under threat in Europe, the rainbow.
Well, if we listen to people saying that Europe should have disappeared 25 years ago and many times in between, the European project is sustainable because the European citizens want it. I don't know why they want it, but if we look the Eurobarometer at least the last 7 years, the level of commitment is very high. And for me, very often, political leader and national leader become more pro-European or less Eurosceptic because there is this support of people. The real question is how to make this support more cohesive for the long term. Europe needs to go on being a success, but this is also a matter of mindset, of value, of narrative. And the citizen needs to be part in the reviving of the European narrative, because the generation of past war is dead or dying, and the new generation has not that. So this is one thing. But the second thing is, which is very important.
Just one thing, because we...
Igor, but one thing. Igor said on purpose, we know what to do, and the topic is the money behind. But in between, you have something which is we need to assess exactly how much money we need in order to do what we have to do. And we have not made this assessment. And within that, we need to integrate the condition of success of enlargement. This is very, very important. We need to assess exactly the money we need. And once we have done this assessment, it will be much easier to find the money.
And Igor, do we need a new town or city in Europe to have another treaty, not Lisbon anymore, something else?
Well, it's not a question of treaty.
No, I'm asking Igor, sorry, we have a wrap-up.
The question is another treaty. So treaty change.
Ljubljana treaty.
The town is not important, the substance is. I think there is a need for one, but in reality, I can hardly imagine that today or tomorrow it could be implemented. Because whatever we agree upon, it will end up at national referendum. And there is a challenge. So first we have to find a way how to find the key priorities and how to implement them. But on the other hand, we have to, before doing this exercise, also explain the narrative to the citizens, as Guillaume said. So first this, and then possible treaty change. Otherwise, we will just raise the expectations, and where we might fail.
Mr. Chovanec, your last point for the end.
I believe that if EU wants to stay competitive, and I hope it does, we need to make the business environment much more easier and flexible, less bureaucratic for the companies. We need to refocus how to keep the biggest companies in Europe, how to put more money into this R&D and innovation activities so we stay competitive. We need to finish the single market, even I would say at whatever price it takes, because we need to keep the best companies and the most prosperous companies in European Union. We should concentrate on closing more trade agreements. EU didn't close any trade agreement, the meaningful trade agreement in 6, 7, 8 years. That's what we should focus. And I really believe that all the new strategies that would be taken into consideration should have this business impact assessment to know exactly what will happen to our companies when the proposition would be put into practice. Because in some areas, like the getting out from nuclear energy, and now we are getting back with some of the Green Deal issues where our steel mills had to be closed down, and now we are importing the steel from China. Those were mistakes, so we have to admit it and not to make them again.
And these big geopolitical powers are still ruled by very old men. I'm happy that on the panel we have Gen Xers, and in the audience we have Gen Z, but I want to finish with Minister Konaković. The most famous from our Gen X remembrance in former country called Yugoslavia, the most famous sleepwalker was a boy called Malik from a movie Father on the Business Trip that won the Cannes Film Festival Best Movie Award in 1985. And there was this rude sentence kids were mocking him, saying to him, so what can we do that the countries of the region of Western Balkans become the countries from which ideas for new Europe will come, from our sleepwalking for years?
Malik is now a famous chief in one of the Sarajevo.
Chief in Rijeka, we have mayor of Rijeka here,
Great,
so we
great.
can go and
so
have
try his
his
kitchen,
sweets.
they said it's really great. So,
Chef.
obviously,
Pastry chef.
chef. Obviously, it's not enough for the European Union to be only economically united anymore, because you have the new world order, like geopolitically, strategically, especially in the sense of security. We need to see a leaders inside of European Union to break some walls. Our experience can be good. I was a soldier during the war. I was 17 and a half, but I was defending my country because we were attacked. And today I'm sitting and negotiating with the people I was fighting against 30 years ago. We were on different sides, shooting each other, not politically, like we were in the war. But today, because of all these facts, because of the future of my country, that's the only way. We need consensus, and I need to talk, to sit, to talk with them. We don't agree about almost anything from our history, but because of the future, we need to break some walls. We need to be brave and actually to make some serious decisions, because we want our country in European Union developed strong enough to keep young people to stay in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We expect to see something like that from the European leaders also. You know, not only bureaucracy, Brussels' famous bureaucracy, but leadership, also some brave decisions, not because of us. I will explain Western Balkans' position, but we are talking now about a big geopolitical world fight, and in the sense of economy and some other issues. For us, it's crucial, but also geographically, it's important for European Union to have Western Balkans integrated. We're talking about 20 and something million people, not too much. It's not like, you know, numbers are not big. Our economy cannot disrupt or affect European economy. We don't have any big agricultural issues like Ukraine has, so this is big, important issue for agriculture in European Union. And that is actually the advantage of this story, because we need each other right now, but also on the other side, we need leadership. Like, we hope that this EU story will continue. The last 2 years, unfortunately, because of aggression in Ukraine, they were in the right direction, let's say. This enlargement, new politics has changed, and it is a chance for all of us. And we are expecting to see actually the new members of all commissions and their approach regarding the future. I hope it will be common future, yeah, thank you.
And we'll have a commissioner for the future. Young BSF, the floor is yours. First question, where are you? Please.
Here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Jana Burzikova. I'm from the Czech Republic, and as has been said, I'm part of the Young BSF. My question goes to the fact that we often hear the critique of the EU being over-regulated. For instance, the recent EU AI Act that has just recently came into force. And you have mentioned several times today the importance of private investments, the importance of technology, AI, science, etc. And my question goes to if you believe that maybe this tendency of the EU to regulate that much can pose such a burden or obstacle towards the strive to become a leader again and to attract the businesses, to keep the companies in Europe. Thank you.
Who wants to pick that question up? Okay, one. We have a second one there. Please, the mic.
Hello, my name is Milena Mihajlović, European Policy Center, Belgrade. We see recently, in the recent period,
No, you just ask. I'm asking the guy for the mic.
that there is an increasing tension between the EU's focus on values on the one hand and its necessity to focus also on the geopolitical priorities on the other hand. This can very tangibly be seen in the case of Serbia, which as a candidate country has a government which is increasingly at odds with the EU values, especially democracy and rule of law. There has been and still is a period of democratic backsliding in the country, while at the same time the EU is very pushy and very decided and committed to exploring and getting the lithium that it badly needs for the green transition. The population of Serbia increasingly feels that the EU is simply decided to pursue its geopolitical interests, the nearshoring and getting the lithium that it needs, regardless of what happens in terms of domestic politics, the breach of human rights, freedom of speech, etc. in the country. How do you see this tension being resolved in the future, if at all? And can the citizens of Serbia, for example, still hope that Serbia can become an EU member despite the fact that the democratic and rule of law backsliding is being neglected and sidelined by the EU due to the geopolitical interests?
Thank you so much. Who will take this one? Who will take this one, just to know? Who will take this one, just to know? Okay, and we have the third one.
Don't push me.
In the
Be
back.
blamed from
The lady in
President
the
of
back.
Serbia
Okay,
for something, probably.
we need some sound bites for the media. The last one is there, and we're going to answer this 3-1, and then we'll see if there's enough time to continue. Thanks.
My name is Sabina Lange. This year, 2 former Italian prime ministers were charged with important reports, Enrico Letta on the future of single market, and during a few days, Mario Draghi on competitiveness. My question to Guillaume, because you addressed the question of something not being within the EU competence and that being a particular issue, and to the 2 state secretaries, where do you see the potential for the EU to overcome the divisions, some of them listed by Mr. Mali earlier, between the member states to embark on what is absolutely necessary? And you've been addressing this now for an hour. So where is this sliver of hope, as discussed yesterday, the opening? Where can we find this negotiating path to overcome those divisions between netto payers, netto receivers, frugals, cohesion receivers, and so on? Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go. So AI, Mr. Mali, first question from Young BSFs.
Excellent question, if I may add. Yeah, the administrative burden is one of the biggest obstacles of the of the EU. And how this does it show? It shows in competitiveness. It shows in, at the end of the day, in farmers, rallying on the streets. So this topic of cutting red tape is going to be one of hidden but very important challenges that the next commissioner will have. How to cut red tape on different levels, from agriculture, green transition, to I don't know, industry competitiveness and so on. It's already ongoing, but I think it will have to, the Commission will have to do more, and all the member states will have to do more. So yeah, definitely agree that this is one of the very important obstacles we have, and we have to tackle it on all levels, not only on one segment.
So who will tackle, because I was trying to walk around this question again with the shaking hands with people who have lithiums or whatever, but no one picked up on it, so thank you for the precise definition of this question. So who wants to take the Serbia question first time? Okay, then I will name you, but...
Sure, man, like,
okay.
No, I will not mention Serbia. I was, some complications. We also have a narrative, from those politicians who are not so pro-Europeans. Okay, EU is coming. Okay, they will take everything we have. They will take our water. They will take our, they will actually forbid our conservative, traditional, rules, and we don't have anything from them. So that's not true. We have to fight for our values, all of us. Bosnia and Herzegovina will fight. I will fight for my people, for our values. I'm conservative. So I think we can protect our identities. We can also protect our environment. We can protect our countries, but also we can be a part of European Union. They are fighting for their values, all of them, 27 member states. They have the same issues. And that's internal question. That's a question for your president, for his leadership. Is he planning actually to develop economy with selling lithium and affecting environment or not? And there is a democracy. I can see people there fighting for the environment, and that's okay. We will do the same. We will protect our countries, but also opportunities are huge. And I don't see any other options for our countries. That cannot be BRICS. That cannot be any other partnership. We cannot export to, I don't know, far away other continents. That's not possible. For our kids and the future of our countries, EU is really important, but also I agree completely, we need to protect our identities and values.
And Guillaume, about Letta and Draghi report, and maybe you can pick up also on that.
Well, I think now we are expecting for the Draghi report, which should go beyond the Letta report. But there is one thing, our main competitive advantage economically is the single market, and this single market needs to be a reality. Now we need two things. On the one side, we need the Commission, when we will have the Draghi report, to make a proposal, because they have the initiative. And on the other side, there will be a negotiation with the member state, but in a new context, because we will have a new leadership, and Antonio Costa will be the president of the European Council. And I think Costa has a diplomatic capacity, which might be higher than the one we have today, which could help to find a solution. And the fact that we have a clear view on how China on the one side and how the US are advancing, we need to have a clear understanding of what's happening in both China and the US will help a lot to go ahead in this perspective. We need benchmark, because this benchmark will push member states to take the right decision. And we need also to act via regulation and not directive, because each time now we have directive, the member states are creating additional administrative burden. And so that's funny, because they recreate barriers. And this is not possible, because the EU is to reduce the barrier.
Thank you, Mr. Chovanec.
Thank you. I have very similar opinion. Without the single market, the EU is not as what it meant to be. It's one of the main features that we just achieve this result. We have to arrive to this result. We need two things. I also believe that the new commission, a new commissioner will try to do all the negotiation with the member states so we can get as close to the single market as possible. But also the political leaders from respective countries, maybe ministers of economy, have to quit using this EU agenda for the local or national political fight. We need just to say for a better good to approve the single market. Maybe sometimes you have to fall down so you can rise again, and I'm afraid the EU is falling, and we need to find a bottom and just come up. Having the full single market is the first step in the right direction.
And hope we will not receive any nuclear bombs. In the meantime, Rastislav Chovanec, thank you. Guillaume, Klossa, thank you so much. Igor Mali, the host here from Slovenia, thank you. And Minister Konaković, thank you so much for being our guest.